Larry Fink just came out. The first trillionaire is going to come out of this, the first, unicorn trillion company, and these uber wealthy individuals are going to be the ones who solve this climate issue.
But anyway, we're talking about the Green New Deal. Could you talk about the Blue Deal, Marin?
So there's 3 types of carbon credits that you really need to focus on. There's blue carbon, and blue carbon are aquatic or ocean credits, water credits. And why I believe the blue carbon credits are going to be the most valuable and the largest upside for investors is, like gold, it's a lot harder to find than silver or copper, so it's worth a lot more. But the impact from an environmental standpoint, for example, 1 square mile of mangrove forests or ocean credits absorb 10 times more carbon out of the atmosphere, so you get 10 times more carbon credits than the same plot of land in a forest, so you get 10 times more there. But interestingly enough also, the biodiversity effect, because you got it on land and underwater, you have a 10 times larger effect in the biodiversity factor, from the algae to the coral to the turtles to the bird sanctuaries involved. And what's going on right now in the mangrove forest, a lot of people aren't talking about it, but it's getting deforested at a greater rate than the Amazon rainforest. Right. Everybody's talking about the Amazon rainforest, and it is horrible destruction what's going on there. But for whatever reason, everyone's being hush-hush about the mangrove forest being deforested because these Chinese shrimp farming companies are they're doing shrimp farming because everybody likes dynamite rolls or all the uses for shrimp. There's not enough organic, natural ways to farm the shrimp, that most of the shrimp you're getting from your grocery store or eating in your sushi rolls are coming from these deforested mangrove areas. So that's why blue carbon credits are going to be worth so much, and they are in the market right now. They're the most valuable credits. Then you have green carbon credits, so think of those as green, forest on land. And then you have white carbon credits, which are the air credits, the airline credits, or the energy fuel switching credits. If you have a utility that used to produce energy from coal and they're switching to, say, wind farm, they're going to get a carbon credit for that difference because they're not emitting pollution out of the atmosphere. So there's blue, green, and white carbon credits.
How are the carbon credits created?
Sure. So let's just say one of the world's most famous carbon credit projects, I'd compare it to the old Homestake gold mine in South Dakota, was something called Rimba Raya, which was originally slated to be clear-cutted for a palm oil plantation, right? Kit Kats. And all this palm oil demand that globally North America and China was requiring. Well, that's going to have huge effects from a biological standpoint, from chimpanzees to monkeys to just the whole biosphere aspect. So what happened was a group came involved and said, hey, don't chop this down for palm oils. We are going to use this as a project to protect and inhabit the potential to grow the trees and maintain these trees, so there is no deforestation, to be able to absorb the carbon out of the atmosphere, and you can calculate that, and it's certified by a company called Verra. Think of Verra as like the PricewaterhouseCoopers of accounting world in the carbon credit world. And the company that bought that, PwC, Delta Airlines, Google, Facebook, all of these global companies have recognized this as like the prime Homestake or the Gold Strike, the tier 1 asset. So now Delta Airlines, when you go on a flight, Robert, you and I were talking about this on your last flight, when you go even book a flight on Google Flight or whatever, it has the price and then it has your carbon footprint. And now the airlines have committed to offsetting their carbon footprint. So that's how you go and create carbon credits. You have to have a project, and you have to have something called additionality factor. What are you doing to this project to prevent the deforestation? And by having this carbon credit certified, that you're adding value to the whole system, that you have to be certified. So it's not like you just go to Central Park and say, I'm going to get carbon credits from this. You have to prove there's an additionality factor. So, was it going to be clear-cutted or whatever? So then you take those credits and then you can sell them to companies like Shell, BP, Exxon. So just to put this into perspective, there's about 200 million tons of carbon credits that are going to be certified this year in 2021. If Shell and Exxon wanted to just offset to meet their new board commitments, like they've been legislated, they have to do this, just those two companies would purchase over 100%. There's not enough carbon credits. So Larry Fink just came out, and the last time I was on your show, I said the first trillionaire is going to come out of this, the first, unicorn trillion company, and these uber wealthy individuals are going to be the ones who solve this climate issue. Larry Fink is saying it. BlackRock just announced new funds to get into this. It is the new, this is so much bigger than Bitcoin. This is so much bigger than gold, so much bigger than the copper market. In fact, this is going to be bigger than the oil market, which makes up about 5% of global GDP. That's not me saying this. This is the biggest oil company and oil traders in the world who are saying this.
So
they're all positioning themselves into it.
Quick question. So these people, this group finds a project, it gets authorized, and then is it the companies that are buying these carbon credits that are funding these projects? Is that how they're funded?
Sometimes it happens. So for example, they've been late to the game. So if you're going to go to an area that's been deforested and you want to replant it, well, it takes 20 years for these trees to grow. So they're not going to get those credits certified till 20 years out or 15 years out, depending on whether you're going poplar or pine or whatever trees you're growing. There's many different ways to do this. For example, let's just say you are a company that goes and says you want to refurbish all of the old lights, the incandescent lights in all the office towers in North America, and you want to put LED. So a company will fund, they'll go to the owners of all these buildings, the REITs, and say, hey, we'll pay for your lights. We'll pay for the guys to come in and change the lights. But give us the carbon credits that we're going to be able to certify mathematically versus incandescent versus an LED because of the difference in energy usage. That additionality factor issues you a carbon credit, and then you can sell that to Shell or Facebook or Google or whoever needs it. That's how it goes. So I created every financing I do, there's no finder fees. That's why bankers hate what I do. I don't take a 7%, finder's fee and 7% in broker warrants. It all goes into something called the Carbon Rangers Fund, which funds the technology. And what does this mean? It means these local indigenous people will have access to 5G in this area. But what does that really mean? Now it means using this new LiDAR technology with incredible accuracy, you could see the label of the chainsaw of the illegal guys trying to come and harvest the trees, or illegal hunters in the area, or for example the humidity and temperature. You can prevent or try to prevent the forest fires rather than being reactionary while all the trees get cut trying to chase them after. Well, at that point, who cares? All the trees are cut. Or if they're doing illegal hunting, or worse, look at all the forest fires going on in the West Coast over the last few years. We see the intensity increasing because the governments have done nothing about this. They're not being preventatory, they're just reactionary. Well, it's better to prevent a heart attack than deal with the post-heart attack effects, and that's what Carbon Rangers is all about. And wherever we're going around the world, we're enabling the local indigenous people to become superheroes of the environment. And we're going to teach them using technology that they already understand, bringing 5G, bringing the technology in the language that they understand. And the wild thing is, this is not costing hundreds of billions of dollars to do it. We're doing it in real time, and the company's making money, and the paybacks on the existing investments are better than any project in the resource sector globally. So it's a win-win for everybody.
And when you were pitching me this deal and explaining it to me, the thing I liked about it, the Carbon Ranger doesn't have to go to Stanford or Harvard for a PhD, do they?
No. And here's the thing. Neither did Elon Musk, and his company is worth more than all 9 of the or 10 of the largest automobile companies in the world. And Bill Gates went and quit and still did it, right? The point is, it's the doers of society. And everybody wants to do good. Like, I've never met an evil person that says, I want to destroy all the forests in the world. Like, no, everybody wants to do good, but you have to enable that.
Right.
And the governments haven't done that.
I'm a hunter, and I go into some of these indigenous villages, and they're depressed. Do you know what I mean? They have no jobs. The kids got no place to go. So when you were talking to me about Carbon Rangers, these kids will have a lifetime profession.
And high paying. And it's going to be cool. We can, I don't want to get into the debates of, when I grew up, when I saw a police officer, they were greatly respected. You'd wave at them. They were kind of like the cool superhero guys. Same with the firemen. The Carbon Rangers are going to be that status of when I was a kid for the blue and the red. So this is going to be an incredible growing, and I think it's going to get into a big thing. And you really find out when the market catches on to this and the investors are catching on to this. And more importantly, Shell, Exxon, BP, they're all in the market trying to figure out how do we buy this, because we know this is where it's going. And this is the one thing that if you're watching this video and you're like, okay, obviously if you're watching Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you already want to have more in life. You want to do better. You want to improve your financial situation. And I believe personal freedom through financial independence. That's been a thing. Like I grew up with immigrant parents. We didn't have much. We had a lot of love, incredible family, but I didn't start out with much. But this is an opportunity. Anybody watching this, whether you're me or the person watching this, we're all on the even foot when it comes to carbon credits. Whether you're in Moscow or in Africa, Argentina, you're in Brazil, anyone with a will, there's a way to do this. And you don't need, to be worth billions of dollars to get into this. Where, if you want to buy a gold mine, it's going to cost you a lot of money to buy this thing and develop it and the equipment.
You know about that.
This is a different game.